We make hundreds, even thousands, of decisions every day, everything from what to eat for breakfast to more significant life choices. But have you ever wondered why some decisions are harder than others? It turns out, the sheer number of options available to us can actually make the decision-making process more difficult. Today, we're going to dive deep into the psychology of decision-making, exploring how the increase in options can complicate our choices and how we can overcome these challenges. Decision-making is the process of choosing between different courses of action. Our brains evaluate the options based on criteria like preferences, past experiences, and emotions. But the process is not always as simple as it sounds. As we are faced with more options, our decision-making abilities become strained, and we often end up feeling overwhelmed. When we make a decision, our brain uses up cognitive resources, and the more decisions we make, the more mental energy we use. This is why, after a day of making many decisions, we often feel mentally exhausted. This phenomenon is known as decision fatigue, a mental state that impairs our ability to make good decisions after prolonged periods of making many choices. The more options we have, the more our brain has to work to compare them. Our minds are trying to evaluate the pros and cons of each choice, and as a result, we feel cognitively overloaded. This can lead to slower decisions, greater uncertainty, and an increased likelihood of avoiding making a choice altogether. When presented with an overwhelming number of options, it's easy to become paralyzed by the analysis process. We start to overthink, and instead of making a quick decision, we spend more time analyzing the possibilities, which only increases our uncertainty. This phenomenon is known as analysis paralysis. As we evaluate more choices, the pressure to make the perfect decision intensifies. The fear of making the wrong choice, combined with the possibility of regret, can make us second-guess our decisions. Ironically, this makes us more likely to delay or avoid making a choice altogether. Barry Schwartz's paradox of choice theory suggests that the more options we have, the less satisfied we tend to be. In fact, abundance of options doesn't always lead to happiness, it can actually lead to confusion and dissatisfaction. In today's world, where choices are endless, this is a very real issue. We don't realize it, but more choices can make us feel overwhelmed, and as a result, we're less satisfied with our decisions. When it comes to decision-making, our brains are wired to handle a certain amount of options. But when presented with too many, we have to evaluate each one carefully, which consumes mental energy. This means that the more choices we have, the more we question our decisions afterward. We start thinking, could there have been a better option? This questioning often leads to a lack of satisfaction with the decision we've made. In some cases, simply choosing something that feels good enough is better than trying to find the perfect choice. Imagine you're in a store looking for shoes. If there are only 3 options available, it's relatively simple to compare and pick the best one. But if there are 20 different shoes to choose from, evaluating each option takes more time and energy, and the decision becomes much more complicated. A study conducted by Sheena Iyengar and Mark Lepper found that when a jam booth offered 6 different types of jam, only 10% of people bought a jar. However, when the same booth offered 24 types, the buying rate dropped to just 2%. Too many options can actually reduce our likelihood of making a purchase. Decision fatigue is a psychological phenomenon that happens and we become mentally exhausted from making too many decisions. As the day goes on, we find it more difficult to make quality choices, and the likelihood of making poor decisions increases. Making a decision uses up mental energy. From the simplest decisions like choosing what to eat, to more complex ones like picking a job, each choice depletes our cognitive resources. As a result, the more decisions we make throughout the day, the more likely we are to make poor choices, especially in the later hours of the day. This is why shopping or making difficult decisions in the evening often feels more exhausting than doing so in the morning. Many successful leaders and entrepreneurs make important decisions in the morning. For instance, former President Barack Obama used to wear the same outfit every day to save mental energy for more important decisions. By reducing trivial decisions, he was able to focus his mental energy on bigger choices. Research has shown that judges, for example, make more favorable rulings in the morning compared to the afternoon. As the day progresses, they become mentally fatigued and more likely to make harsh or less favorable judgments. This demonstrates the real impact of decision fatigue. Having too many options can also increase social pressure. For example, when you're at a restaurant with friends, you might feel the need to make the same choice as everyone else to avoid standing out. This social anxiety adds another layer of difficulty to the already complex decision-making process. Many decisions are driven by emotional considerations, not just logic. When we make decisions, we often think about the emotional consequences. Having more options forces us to evaluate these emotional outcomes more deeply, which can lead to increased emotional exhaustion. When shopping for an item, we often consider not only the price but also the emotional satisfaction it will bring. Balancing these factors can be mentally taxing, especially when we're faced with an overwhelming number of choices. One effective strategy to manage too many choices is to limit your options. By narrowing down your choices, you can focus more clearly and make faster decisions. For example, instead of scanning an entire menu, you can decide beforehand that you'll only consider 3 types of dishes. When shopping, many people find it helpful to filter their options. For instance, if you're looking for a pair of shoes, you might narrow it down to a specific style or color, which helps you avoid getting overwhelmed by all the other choices available. Before making a decision, it helps to define what's important to you. By setting clear criteria, you can filter through the options more efficiently and focus on what truly matters. For example, when considering a job offer, you can decide that salary is important, but so is career development, company culture, and work-life balance. When choosing between job offers, instead of focusing solely on the salary, consider factors like job growth opportunities, workplace culture, and commute time. By having specific criteria, you make it easier to evaluate your options. Once you've made your decision, it's important to feel confident and satisfied with it. Instead of second-guessing your choice, focus on the positive aspects and accept that no decision is perfect. This will help you feel more content with your choices in the long run. For example, after selecting a restaurant, rather than questioning whether you made the best choice, focus on enjoying your meal and the company you're with. The more you accept your decisions, the more at peace you'll feel with them. In conclusion, decision-making is a complex process, and an abundance of choices can make it even more difficult. However, by applying certain strategies, such as simplifying your options, setting clear criteria, and learning to be satisfied with your decisions, you can make better choices with greater ease and confidence. The next time you're faced with an overwhelming number of options, remember that more isn't always better. By limiting choices, focusing on what matters, and accepting your decisions, you can make the process easier and more satisfying. I hope this video has helped you better understand the psychology behind decision-making and how to navigate it more effectively.